Hi, everyone. Welcome to Broad Banter. My name is Jahan Corbin.
I'm Lynn Haddad.
Lynn and I are so honored to be the co-facilitators of this offering from Breast Cancer Recovery in Action. BRA is our acronym, and you can insert your supportive pun there. BRA is first and foremost a community of folks navigating breast cancer, and we provide resources in a few different ways through exercise. In a small group setting, we have education, which is Bra Banter is included under that umbrella, and emotional wellness as well as nutrition. So there's a lot of different resources available to you, and we encourage you to go to brawgroups.org if you'd like to learn more or get involved. Lynn and I both have been around since the start of this organization. We were fortunate enough to be on the original board of BRA, and now we are both involved still in some different ways, but we're very honored to be able to host Bra Banter. This on demand video series is meant to be a resource for people. Lynn and I are both breast cancer survivors, and so we try to think of topics and speakers that we would want to hear about and learn about what they're doing, hear more about their stories, how they're involved in their community, and how breast cancer has affected them. And so we're really excited about our guest today who's joining us for Broad Banter. I'm going to let Lynn introduce her to you.
Well, I am very happy to be able to introduce Luchi, rhymes with Gucci, which is that's pretty good association to have. And Luchi wears a variety of hats. Well, first of all, she's located in Dallas, Texas. She founded a nonprofit called Hiker, so she's an avid hiker. She is a two-time breast cancer survivor, and she's founder of Diary of A Breastie, which is mostly what we're talking today. And she's a certified gut health coach. That's the right way to say it, Luchi?
Yes, absolutely. You got that right.
And I was reading an article about you today before we got together. You hold also a full-time job, is that correct?
Yes.
So I don't even have your time to sit
Do
here
you
and
sleep?
I do it all.
Do you sleep, Luchi? Is that part of your daily life?
I'm like, so yeah, Luchi's rhymes with Gucci, very busy. If I'd had a way to rhyme that one
Uh-huh.
more, I would have done that, but I'm not that clever, so sorry. But no, you have our admiration, Luchi. Very, you're doing a lot for the world, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, and what a force you are. So tell us more about the origin of Diary of a Breastie. You had shared with us kind of that it started as a newsletter and has morphed into something else. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I love this question because it takes us back to the heart of Diary of a Breastie, beyond it being a newsletter, beyond it being a podcast, beyond it being a media platform. So Diary of a Breastie definitely started with my own story, with my own journey, and it started where obviously I got diagnosed with breast cancer and I thought it was over for me and I did not know what to do. I was just in a place of confusion, a place of disappointment, a place, just all the negative emotions that you can think about. Because at the time, not only was I dealing with my diagnosis, but I was also dealing with another family member who unfortunately, my mom, at the time, lost her life to cancer. And so it was such a dark time for not only me, but my family. And so when I got this diagnosis, I couldn't share with anybody. And so it was a burden that I was trying my hardest to navigate. And so eventually I was able to find my way to a local breast cancer support group where I met a lady who eventually became my friend. And so whenever we started talking and, her story inspired me a lot because at the time when I met her, she was already on the other side of her journey. She had gone through the chemo, the radiation, the surgery, and at this time she was engaged to be married. And I for me that just lit all kinds of bulbs in my mind. I was like, wow, if she could go through this and still have it in her to go out there and date and do everything else, then I can too. I can. So that was where that one story changed the trajectory of the breast cancer journey that I had to go through. And so once I was at a place where I was more stable emotionally and physically, I started to write. I needed an outlet, so I started to post stuff online about the journey, and then I would get a lot of messages from women or even comments on the post saying, "Oh my God, I see myself in this story. I see myself." I was like, "Wait a minute, the power of a story or storytelling can impact people on this level, then there's something here to dig further." And so I use I started thinking about how much that had impacted my journey. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to not only be able to help others going through this journey, when they see other people like themselves they can relate to, but also give other people the chance of healing, because you'd be surprised when people talk about their story. It's a different form of healing for them, because a lot of people might not have the capacity to, whether that be write a book, start a podcast like me, or start a blog, whatever the case may be, but they still need an outlet, and that's what Diary of a Breastie is.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I have a couple of thoughts about what you're saying. So Jahan and I are actually sitting in the library right now. You notice the luxurious background we have. And so at Broad Groups, when she was going through our introduction, she mentioned that we have an emotional wellness component. And so one of the things we do is we get together with members of Broad Groups, both online and in person. And we have discussion groups where we will talk through a book, and it's an opportunity to just meet with people that nobody knows in advance. But the one thing that we all share is we're breast cancer survivors.
Yeah.
And we get to share that commonality and talk through some of the experiences that we've had. And I have found that sharing, so much like what you're sharing online, is just so impactful.
Mhm.
And people come from different walks in life. They can be different ages, they can be different religions, different socioeconomic situations, but they can bond in a way that it just connects them so quickly and so powerfully. Mm-hmm. And if they met in other circumstances, they might not form that bond at all, right? They might never stop and talk, but it's just so meaningful and special to have that connection. And often, even I think one thing that our members share is that they've had family members and friends who supported them, who love them, but they couldn't maybe share those same situations or those same feelings with them because they didn't experience the same situation. And I think it's really powerful that you're able to do that online and have such a large reach. It's amazing.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that storytelling, you kind of figured out that it has the power to heal. And you mentioned it started through your writing and posting online. I'm curious, prior to your breast cancer diagnosis, had you ever had an experience like that where the story, just sharing your story was as impactful, or was that really the first time in your life that you felt like that was something really bringing people together?
Yeah, I think that was the first time in my life that I would say I was aware of the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
I always think of it like this. Before breast cancer, I was leaving, but after cancer, I'm alive.
Mm.
Um, so I hate that I had to go through this, but
Mm-hmm.
I do believe strongly that there is a greater purpose for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I maybe might have seen the power of storytelling before breast cancer, but I just wasn't aware of it because I wasn't alive.
Right.
I love that. I just jotted that down. That
Yeah.
is uh, such a fantastic quote. Before breast cancer, I was living, but after breast cancer, I'm alive. I know it has a way of. I mentioned that Lynn and I are both survivors as well. I just think a diagnosis like this, it really has a way of bringing things into focus in a
Mm-hmm.
hurry, into sharp focus in a hurry. It's like you really start to figure out what am I doing and how am I spending my time here, and it just kind of shifts the way you look at the world, I think.
Yeah. And I
True.
great to be able to, I mean, I think we've talked before about, yes, would we absolutely wish that this had never happened? Yes. But to be able to see a positive coming through the experience really it's a mindset that helps in the healing, and it's turning trauma and pain into something good. And that actually, I had jotted down when I told you I was reading this article about you earlier today. Amazing, by the way. It's in Voyage Dallas, right? They love an article about Luchi. And in it, you said everything is about turning pain into purpose, helping women feel seen, supported, and empowered. And I mean, that is, right, to me, that's the golden nugget of something happened to you that you didn't want to happen, I'm sure. But you have turned it into this amazing gift, to allow women to share their stories and to make them feel heard.
Absolutely.
So, more power to you.
Good work.
How do you identify the survivors whose stories are able to share? How do they find you, or how do you find them?
I don't think it's more of identifying. I think for me, I try to do a good job of being as broad as possible, because the reason is because I feel our stories are similar, but not everybody is going to relate to everybody. So I'm not necessarily trying to identify a certain archetype to tell their story. I'm opening the platform and saying, hey, if you want to tell your story, if you think your story is you want to share your story, please, this is the platform. So that's kind of how I go about it. So one of the ways people can reach out is, we have a form on the link in our bio. And if they're ever interested in sharing their stories, like I said, some people might not have the capacity to write a book, to start a podcast, write a blog, whatever the case may be, but they still have that inkling in them that they want to share their story, they want to touch lives, and Diary of A Breastie is a way to do it, one of the ways to do it. So yeah, definitely check out the link in the bio. It's a very straightforward form. You fill it out, and then me and my team will be reaching out to you.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what we can do is we'll be putting this video up on our website, and it'll be on YouTube. We can, on our website, put a link to your website, right, which is a good way to connect. To what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of, that's what I was going to say, just that we have a lot of people, members and people that maybe are not involved in BRA, but if you found this recording and you're listening to our voices now, maybe you are a few years down the road with your own journey and you're looking for a way to give back, and sharing your story is really helpful to encourage someone who maybe is more newly diagnosed, who is overwhelmed trying to process. I know Luchi, when you were saying just now, like how obviously we all have this in common, but our stories are all going to be unique and different. And that is so true. I mean, I say all the time, I was very blissfully ignorant. I knew nothing about breast cancer, and I was very happy to know nothing about breast cancer because I didn't have any experience with it, unfortunately, until my own diagnosis. I did not realize back then in that naive state that you could talk to 10 different people who have all been diagnosed with breast cancer and have 10 completely different experiences in terms of the type and the treatment and their, what all they've experienced. I just didn't know. I was blissfully ignorant. So I think it is so good for all of us to share because there are similarities and then there are differences as well. But for that person who may be listening and thinking, okay, I'm ready to pay it forward somewhat and I want to help someone behind me, your podcast is a really great way to do that, just by talking and sharing their story, because it provides so much hope and encouragement to people. And then I think for those of us on the side that we're on, like having finished active treatment and being a little bit more removed from our initial diagnosis, it is so meaningful and brings such purpose to what we went through when we're able to help somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who may be camera shy, and that's why the newsletter exists, there's also the newsletter path. It works the same thing as as a blog, if you will, where we share a member story, and then we also share other resources, free resources for breast cancer survivors. Because one thing I like to think about is like, okay, well, there's this story now, then what? There are other resources that can help, and organizations like yourself, because again, we can only do so much by ourselves, but we can do so much more when we're together. So Diary of a Breast is that place that you can come to, not only to get motivation, encouragement, but also to be empowered to walk through your journey with confidence.
Such power in community. I love that. So how is the newsletter, you mentioned it's like a blog. Do people subscribe to receive it, or do they go to a website? How do they get access to that newsletter?
Yes, you do have to be subscribed. Right now, we don't have an official website, but don't worry, that's gonna change in a couple of weeks. But yeah, you do have to be subscribed to the newsletter. Once you're subscribed, you can go on there and read even our past newsletters as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually signed up today.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was perusing, yeah, some of your prior newsletters, lots of information.
Yeah,
And
great.
yeah, like I saw that you mentioned like Casting for Recovery
Oh,
as a nice resource, which
Yeah.
we had signed up last year. We didn't make it. It's a fly fishing, just for anybody who's watching this organization where they send women on these retreats
Mhm.
and they get to bond with other women and they teach you how to fly fish, which is something I've never known about, but it just is like tremendously reviewed, and it seems like it's a big hit with the breast cancer community, and it's all for free, and it's just a great way to bond with other
And it's
survivors.
nationwide. So they have retreats in very, lots of different states.
Yeah,
So
it is.
Casting
It's
for
really
Recovery,
neat.
if you're interested in that, they're great.
So you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so for people who want to develop sort of more vulnerability and authenticity in sharing their story, do you have any advice for folks who are wanting to do that?
I think take your time. Take your time, because one thing you don't want to do is feel rushed, because then the authenticity part of it becomes tampered with. So I would say take your time. It took me years for me to be here today, and talking like this, and even being a champion for this. And even sometimes, depending on the room I'm in, sometimes I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about my story. So you're always going to get those moments. So I would say definitely take your time. I would say join more communities like BRA, join more communities like Diary of a Breastie. I think when you see others sharing and the power of their storytelling, I think that does something to you too, as well as in the way you use your story as a tool.
Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, when I was first introducing you, I mentioned that you wear many hats, right? And so
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back to that a little bit, because a lot of what you do, in addition to Diary of a Breastie, also aligns with BRA. So you do have Hike Her, right,
Yes.
which is obviously activity based, and
Yeah.
one of our tenets is helping women get back to activity after their diagnosis and treatment. So can you tell us, do you want to just share a little bit about that? And then I know you have another interest as well. And so I'd be interested in hearing some of the other areas that you've focused on since your
Yeah.
diagnosis.
Yeah. I think hike her was one of the first things I did once I got through treatments. I think I also mentioned, obviously it's a very dark place, right? I think one of the things that really, really helped me was being out in nature. Although I couldn't hike obviously at the time for very obvious reasons,
Right.
but just being out in the park, hearing the water fountains, the like lake, like the man-made lake, something like that. That really helped me to relax. And I think a big thing with the breast cancer journey is the mind. If
Uh-huh.
your mind is not I want to say nourished and you don't have the right mindset, it's going to be a very uphill battle for you. And so one of the things I really tried to do was, just protect my mind as much as possible. And so one of the ways was going out in nature and, you know, being a woman of faith, obviously praying. And, one of the things I promised God was, hey, if you, and I know you will, if you bring me through this, I will, show other women the healing power of nature. And that's exactly what I did with Hike Her. So Hike Her is faith-based. It is obviously open to all. It's a faith-based community for women hiking here in Dallas. And so we meet every last Saturday of the month. And beyond the hiking, it's also about holistic living, because one of the things that I found out, which kind of led me into God's health, everything it's more like I like to say I'm building an ecosystem of empowerment and healing for not only myself but for other women. So one of the things I found out that healing is it has to be holistic. It cannot just be what you eat. It has to be the way you feel, the way you interact with people, the way you rest, the way you relax, the way you protect your mind, all those things all have a place in our healing. And so with Hike Her, I try to make it as holistic as possible. So with the last Saturday of the month, we not only do hiking, we have like wellness activation partners, like massages there. We have a B12 person. It's
Wow.
always something different. Or juice person. This Saturday, actually, we have another one coming up, and we have a massage person, and we have another vendor who is a black seed oil. If you know anything about black seed oil, you know the power and potency of black seed oil. So we're going to have that for our attendees this Saturday. So yes, with Hike Her, we're outside. We're not only outside, but we're building our bodies in other ways, our minds, our spirits, and our souls as well.
Oh, I love that.
Wow.
That's so cool. I just love, there's so many things that are so inspiring about you. I just love how like you're just like, well, I wanted to start this, and so I did. I mean, you just sort of
You're a born leader, I
you
think.
definitely, definitely. I love
How do
that.
you get the word out about all this? I mean,
How do I get the word? Oh, I mean, we live in 2026. You can make a post. I mean, I think one of the things, and you ladies heard me say this, like when before breast cancer I was leaving, but now I'm alive. So it's like, okay, well, if I want to do something, I do it. The worst that can happen is that nobody shows up, and we try again tomorrow.
well,
That's true. That is a great attitude. That's true.
I can tell you though, it's a lot of work, finding people to help pay for this and trying to, get the word out. And I mean, it's not, you have a wonderful attitude.
I know.
I think if we know of another 501c who could use some help if you want to pitch in, because we also are growing, but man, we're always looking for help, and we need a energetic person that's hop on in.
Such a little ball of energy.
I think I need to recruit you.
It doesn't sound like she has much free time to fit anything else in.
We're in.
Oh my God. I mean, in terms of
Florida, I think Texas is the next place.
The next obvious place, right?
no, I think, there is obviously beyond like us talking right now, there's obviously ways for collaboration.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm always open to sharing ideas, whatever capacity. I mean, obviously my time is kind of stretched, but in terms of I guess somebody has also asked me this in terms of like consulting for a business and things like that. But hey, it's something I've not looked into. But yeah, I'm always open to sharing my ideas.
I love it. I love it.
Love it.
Well, and going back to what you said about just being out in nature, I think that is so important. I remember being in treatment and not being at a place where I could really hike yet. I didn't have that kind of stamina, but I still found it very important to sit outside just outside of my house on my porch. I would sit and let the sun hit my face or feel the fresh air or stick my feet in the grass. I just think even to whatever degree or capacity you have to get out into nature, it really is very helpful, I think, in in reframing, for me, it reframes my outlook. It reminds me how big the world is and how small I am, and so it's a good way to kind of reset if you're, especially if you're going through treatment, you're spending a lot of time recovering and you're in your bed or you're on your couch. Like, it's just a good thing to have a change of scenery. So now that we're getting into some of the warmer months, I encourage you to get outside and let nature kind of do its healing thing, because it's really true.
Yeah, get outside and touch grass.
That's right. Touch grass. Touch grass. That's right. Well, what else do you want our listeners to know? Is there anything else about Diary of a Breastie that we haven't covered?
I think we pretty much covered it. Just make sure you subscribe to us. We're everywhere on Instagram, on YouTube, on Amazon Music, and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And so, definitely look out for those newsletters and podcasts. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy every bit of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know we will. Awesome.
Great. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to share some of what you're doing with us. And we will definitely, we started following you. I think Jahan found your podcast first and signed up for your newsletter. And I don't listen to as many podcasts myself, but I love to read. So I will be following you.
Okay.
I listen to podcasts when I'm folding laundry. That's what I do. And so, and unfortunately, I have way more laundry than I wish I did. So, but at least I've got good quality content to listen to now. So,
information differently.
Yeah, that's right. We appreciate you, Luchi. Thank you for your time today.
We've loved it.
And thank you for what you're doing. Carry on. We're so proud of your good work.
Thank you, ladies. And I enjoyed every bit of this.
Oh, good.
Think about Middle Tennessee. Hiking.
Great. Yeah. That's right. Thank you, Luchi.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.